What's going on, guys? Welcome back to United View. Hope everyone is doing very well. Welcome back to another edition of The Full View. We are 1/6 light this evening, as you can see. You would have seen on the thumbnail, you'd have seen in the title, it says The Full View, Ten Hag United turnaround. Flex, Owen, Marcel, Kenny, Good Vibes, John, and Rich as well. Flex is not here at the moment. He is late. He is pulling what is known as a KG the Comedian, in which it was, I'm going to go out this evening. I'm going to go to a fireworks display. Remember the 5th of November. Also remember what time the Full View starts, 7 p.m. And Flex is late because his firework thing, I guess, overran or whatever. Some would describe it as...
disgrace. That's what it is.
Yeah. Some would also describe it as...
It's embarrassing. I'm sorry. Embarrassing.
Yeah. How do I feel right now?
Honestly, I feel sick. That's how I feel. I feel sick.
Yeah. Don't think when that was going on yesterday, we weren't pulling the clips for the soundboard. The soundboard have returned as well. Big up to everyone. Yeah, immediately, yes. Big up to Rich, Marcel, Good Vibes, John, and Kenny. Hope everyone's doing very well, enjoying their Sunday. Again, it's bonfire night, Guy Fawkes night over here. So you might hear just maybe a smidge in the background, a few fireworks, a few explosions, all that kind of stuff. We'll do our best to mute it. But plenty to get into when it comes to the world of Manchester United off the back of late drama once again yesterday for us. A 1-0 late victory at Craven Cottage in the capital as Bruno Fernandes, with a bit of late magic-ish Manchester United par for the course this season, I guess. I'll start with you, Rich. How are you feeling after yesterday? Is it more of the same? Is there optimism? Is there relief? How are you feeling?
Oh, big up everyone in the chat. Big up Owen. Honestly, it's more the same. Let's be honest. I think it's nice that we're getting, for me anyway, it's nice that we're getting the 3 points there yesterday. But then when you really, really look at the game and the performance overall, Ten Hag came out and said it was a solid performance. You could tell that he didn't want to say good performance. He was just a level below good performance. But I think he was happier to see that, we were improving. So for me, I am happy that we got the 3 points. Yes, especially when you look at the table, look at the context of the season. We're only right now. It seems like we only win or lose. We don't draw. There's no such thing as drawing when it comes to us this season. It's just win or lose. And in that regard, we're actually picking up some points. And we're not too far off the top 4 positions now, really, because that's all we can hope for. And you could say in one of our worst times, we're not doing too badly overall in terms of comparing it to everybody else. And also when you look at comparing it to last season, I think this time last season, we had the same amount of points. So once again, maybe wider context is not as bad as we think, but ultimately the football is or can be at times just depressing. You watch United play, then you go and watch, I think yesterday was a City played yesterday. You watch that game, you think it's completely different, So it's just a shame to see that our football's not there yet. Certain players that really annoy me today. At this point, I'll mention Anthony straight away. I think I'm kind of done with him. But for me, we need to be better. We need to be better. I need to be able to see the football being more impressive because you want to watch, you want to be entertained. And right now, I am not entertained.
No, it's like that. Was it in Gladiator? Are you entertained or something like that? Yeah,
exactly.
Full of the references today. Exactly. Not entertained. Not right now. Kenny, what did you make of it yesterday? It's funny how football works out, isn't it? Because we're 8th, but we were saying just before we went live, 4 teams above us drop points this weekend. You get your points on the board. Winning is the ultimate currency in football. Performances still aren't there. Has any of the pressure subsided, do you think? Has it papered over the cracks? Like, how are you feeling about yesterday?
I think we're papering over the cracks, aren't we, for being honest, from the point of view that, and I've got to use, because we haven't spoken since Wednesday night as well against Newcastle. That Newcastle team, half of them players on Wednesday night hadn't played for 18 months. I saw the changes that were made in midfield. And before the game, when I saw young Hannibal in and I saw Mountain and Casemiro, I was made up. I thought, great, he's left Rashford out, he's left Bruno out, and we were woeful. And the really disappointing for me on Wednesday night was the fact that young Hannibal had his chance and didn't take it. 10 minutes in, he gets boot. And then within another 5 minutes, Casemiro also got boot. And I'm thinking, how can you, as our captain, now we've made you captain, you should be setting examples to these young lads. He should have gone over to Hannibal and said, what the hell are you doing? You know what I mean? You shouldn't be getting booked after 10 minutes. The next thing, Newcastle run through us. And both games, I've been trying to watch patterns of play and how we're progressing. And I saw it more yesterday. And if you look at the statistics with regards to us winning the ball back in the last third, we're the best in the league at winning the ball back. But we must also be the worst in the league at giving it away once we've got it back.
That's why we win it back so much.
Unbelievable. We're winning the ball back, and the energy in the first 20 minutes yesterday, I was really happy with. And then all of a sudden, I'm seeing Anthony, and I'm seeing even young Garnacho, and I saw Bruno trying to flick little flicks and back heels or whatever, and losing the ball. And all of a sudden, Willen, and I felt sorry for Wan-Bissaka. I thought Wan-Bissaka and Harry Maguire were outstanding yesterday. I honestly did. And, I never thought that I'd be happy to see Harry Maguire on the field again wearing our shirt. I thought he was outstanding. The lad won
even concussed Harry Maguire as well.
Exactly. That tells you something about his spirit for wanting to play and continue. Because if that had been Anthony or Marcel, they'd have been sending sick notes on Monday morning for a fortnight. But no, fair play to Harry Maguire and Wan-Bissaka. And, we touched on about Anthony. Anthony did nothing, absolutely nothing. It was awful. And, I don't want to criticise the lad, but Wan-Bissaka got caught out twice, covering for him in their corner flag, and Willen's breaking, and it looks as though it's Wan-Bissaka's fault. It wasn't. It's the fact that Anthony's losing the ball so high up, and Wan-Bissaka's trying to do overlaps and trying to support him, and he's getting caught out simply because of Anthony's just poor play. Young Palestri yesterday, when he came on, very, very tenacious. And we're getting to the stage now as Manchester United fans, we're accepting 100% effort as good. If they come on and they're good and they get stuck in, that's great. Forget about quality. And we can't do that. So that's not sustainable. It's great that young Palestri came on. He give everything, the lad. Give everything. And because of his tenacity, because of his endeavour, we got a goal. Because he made 2 or 3 tackles in the penalty box. The ball comes back to Bruno, comes back again, and we score from it. If that was Anthony on the field, we don't score because he doesn't make them tackles. He doesn't make them tackles. On the other side,
just a quick one straight away, Kenny. Sorry. Just to continue, you can continue 100%. But Palestri's already got an assist in the Premier League. Exactly. From what you just said, Anthony doesn't have one yet.
Doesn't have exactly. So I'm all for that. And if it means that we get that amount of effort, if we get that tenacity every week, then leave Palestri in. I'll accept 100%. That because I'm watching too many players not giving that. But young Palestri, Garnacho on the other side. I thought Garnacho, to start with, again, was losing the ball. But I have to say, when he's got the ball, he tries to do something. He's trying to make things happen. It's just not happening like it was last year. And I don't know if it's something that they're doing in training, but it's gone like Anthony. Last year, as soon as Garnacho got the ball, he was going past his man. There was no stop. It just set off, and he relied on his pace. Yesterday, it's very similar to Anthony in that he stops. He stops and he's looking at the play and he's coming inside. And I think I don't know if it's a lack of confidence or he's being told to play like that. But no, young Garnacho and young Palestri, keep them in. Because if nothing else, they're giving the fans something to feel good about, which is not what we should be talking about.
It's what they asked for before the game. You see the banner in the way ends. Play like you mean it. Play like you mean it.
So the fans will take that. What the fans won't take is what happened on Wednesday night. Round me on Wednesday night, 65 minutes in, the second goal went in. About 10 people stood up round me and walked out. I thought, that's just over an hour into the game. It's embarrassing. It's a fan. And at the final whistle, I would say, there was only probably 15,000 Man United fans left in that ground. Now, yesterday, our away fans, I thought, were superb. I thought they never stopped. So, is it time for Kerm? We are papering over the cracks. But I did see a pattern of play where he's looking to win the ball back in the final third. And I'm happy with that. But what he's got to do, he's got to have players on the field that can keep hold of that ball. It was once you start keeping hold of that ball, and once you start doing them little interplays and them little triangles, the goals will come. Got to do.
Hopefully so. Marcel, did you see patterns of play yesterday? You've been saying for the last couple of weeks, time for calm, time for positivity, even in negative moments. Did you see elements of that yesterday, or are you still acknowledging that, yes, it is papering over the cracks, but it's wins?
It's wins. A win is a win. It's definitely not a thing where we're having any good build-up patterns or any sign of good football at the moment. From what I saw, we were, weathering a lot of storms. I think in the early minutes of the game, obviously we had a good set piece that I think we're just utilizing the height of Maguire and, his robust frame, getting the ball around him to kind of, trying to get opportunities. But other than that, there was nothing really great in the play. I think Garnacho was a bright spark, but you could see obviously Eriksen started to tie down. We just haven't got those good, build-up patterns in the midfield. Even though the defense done their job, I think they could have been more creative in terms of the playmaking, passing through the lines. But Maguire done that. For the first time in a long time, I saw Maguire playing through the lines, at least once or twice, and got us on a few chances. But, like Kenny said, we've been really good in the opposition's third in terms of turnovers. So I think Ten Hag's still obviously trying to, work, us, getting the ball as high up the pitch as possible, but also being able to get back in a defensive shape. And again, we suffered in that way. Willian got through a couple of times, but we made blocks. The defense made blocks. So there's some positives to take from it, but these are just wins right now. I think Casemiro's out. I've heard Casemiro's out, so it's going to be interesting to see who plays in the 6 and what the combination of the 2-8s will be in the team. But Ten Hag's got some decisions to make. He's got to be a lot more creative in his starting lineup selection right now for us. But we're scraping through right now. But this is how it's going to be in a rebuild process. Some of those players are not really meant to be at the club right now. And that shows sometimes in the performance. But the likes of Score obviously said they got to fight like dogs. You have to do that. That's the bare minimum. Like Kenny said, you got to give the 100% effort. And Bruno comes in and delivers as a captain's performance. Even though he was shocking, you still have to deliver the 3 points.
Was it a captain's performance? So you say that, like, what defines a captain's performance? Is the definition of a captain's performance scoring a late goal, or is there more to it than that? Because I've seen a lot of people go, see, that's why he's the captain. But you go, is it?
What did he do?
You know what it is, Owen. It's a thing where, as a captain, you're just like any of the other players. But even when your performance is absolutely shocking, we still have to win that game, any means necessary. And he's delivered that, and we've seen him under other managers carry the team as well, while we're playing well as well. So even when he's poor, he's still been able to deliver points. It's his next challenge for me is being able to do that in the big games against the top 5 teams, against the top 4 teams. Right now, he's not doing that. And that shows, you're not really a star player, not really a world-class player. And maybe you're only really a good captain right now. But, in years to come, he has to be able to deliver against City, against Liverpool, against Newcastle, against our bigger rivals, Arsenal, Spurs. He has to do that. That's where he's failing. At the beginning of the season, he had an opportunity to score against Spurs, to carry the team through and get us those 3 points. So that's his next challenge for me. But we just have to carry through, man. Copenhagen next.
Copenhagen next, indeed. Oh, I know. Honestly, I haven't even gone that far in my head yet. Actually, genuinely, I've just gone. I'm waiting. We won a game. I'm sitting on it for a little bit. John, after the game yesterday, I saw Erik ten Hag did an interview with TNT Sports over here, and Rio Ferdinand was actually asking him questions about the style of play and saying, we haven't really seen that this season. Maybe at bits and pieces last season, but definitely not this season. And Erik ten Hag said, "Look, I don't like using excuses." But the reason really we haven't seen the style of play is because of these defensive injuries. We've been so hamstrung defensively. There's no consistency with the back 4 that we can select. And it's about 11 players attacking and 11 players defending. Do you think that's like a valid excuse for the lack of style of play? I mean, because actually, yesterday, once again, you could argue that defensively, that was our strongest part of the team.
Yes, for sure. But actually, before I go on, I wanted to bring this up real quick. The last year I was in Manchester, I was there around this time, and one of my friends explained to me the concept of bonfire night.
Yeah,
crazy. Because some dude couldn't complete the parliament goal, and now everybody just...
It doesn't make any sense. It actually doesn't make any sense. But
we tried to overthrow the government, so we let off fireworks.
Yeah, we like bright lights and gunpowder.
Which I was like, wow. Look, it's fun. I love it. But anyway, sorry. I had to get that out there. But going back to your question, I think it's a valid excuse 1,000%. There's so many people in the comments who are arguing with some opposition fans, whoever it is, name dropping Doku and whatnot, saying he's got 7 assists, blah, blah, blah. When a team is healthy, when you have right players from top down, when you have a full 17, when you have a full 25, when you have a proper squad filled with depth, filled with quality, with talent, you can do whatever you like, and you can find the robustness, the health of the squad. You think Doku can do that when he comes to Man United? Absolutely not. You know what I mean?
You can thrive in a good environment, right?
Exactly. You know, every player has different sort of positions with respect to how they're playing. And don't get me wrong, I'm not here to just defend Marcus Rashford and say that he's playing very, very well. But going back to what Owen actually asked with respect to the conversation about his defenders, Manchester United right now are in a position where Erik ten Hag can play with his system wherein Manchester United thrive with said system, but it really requires every single player that's part of that starting 11 to be on deck. If without those players, without those strong crop of players, it's not going to work. And I think what Erik ten Hag has failed to do is try and figure out a way to get the best out of the players who are so far apart in terms of the style of play. I'm not going to say quality, but the style of play and what they can offer as footballers. We've seen the likes of Licha and Varane, orchestrators in transitioning that ball from the initial third to the middle third. We talked about how David De Gea last season can't carry the ball, can't play, whatever, but they still managed to do it. And they were kicking dope ball last season with those two players in that defense. Luke Shaw, Aaron Wan-Bissaka, also at the peak of their form. Our back four was arguably one of the most delicious back fours in the Premier League last season. The way they were able to stay so solid defensively, the way we were able to transition through the thirds, it was so good. But without them, Erik ten Hag has had. I don't think any manager would have been like prepared for that kind of shell shock to lose all of his players within that short spell of time. Like we saw Arsenal last season, they lost Saliba for a minute and they just started capitulating. We saw Liverpool a few seasons ago, they had Van Dijk, they lost Van Dijk and they just started capitulating. Erik ten Hag has lost everybody. You know what I'm saying? And you telling me like it's not easy. I'm not gonna sit here and say Erik ten Hag is completely devoid of any blame, but I do understand his sentiment. And if he had more of his players and more players that were completely suitable to his style of play, then maybe I sit here and go, Eric, I don't know about that one, Chief. But I do feel for him in that sense.
This is quite an interesting one, and this is kind of the counter argument to like the injuries and all this kind of stuff. So it comes from Show, one of our members, says, I get the injuries hinder us, but what does that have to do with 1 goal scored between all of our forwards this season? Yeah. Does anyone care to take that?
Yeah, I can answer that. I can answer that right away.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead. No, go ahead, Kenny. Go ahead.
No, you've just touched on one thing there about Doku, right? Doku, when he was he's a Belgian footballer, and he played his football at Antwerp, then he went over to France. In his first season in League One in France, he had the record number of dribbles in the French Premier League, which was 12. In his second season, he had the record number of dribbles, 12 in one season, right? It's about recruitment, right? And I'm not singling out Anthony here, right? Doku cost less than what Anthony cost. So you've got to look at the recruitment. I don't think Anthony could do 12 dribbles if he played for 2 years, never alone in a season. But, and again, it goes back to what we're saying about recruitment and so on. When you're talking about patterns of play, when you're talking about good teams or whatever, and it's already been mentioned about Ten Hag just wants players that he knows or he has seen. Now, I think part of that reason is he hasn't trusted the recruitment system of Manchester United. We don't have a very good record in the last decade. So he's come in and he's thought, well, Anthony's done it here. Suchibori's done it there. Amrabat's done it here. I was with him at Eindhoven and all that, right? But it's not working. It's not working. And I think one of the things going forward, I would be happy if we had a director of football and the fans were made aware of the fact that recruitment was going to be in the hands of, and there was going to be a change, structural change. Because I think going forward, if we're talking about improving the quality, just look at what Manchester City do. Jack Grealish, I thought, was playing brilliant. Jack Grealish might not get back in the team because of Doku.
Exactly.
You know, incredible. So where's that recruitment? What's the difference? We'd never heard of Doku. We'd never heard of him. He played at Antwerp. and he's cost less than Anthony. So we're getting something wrong off the pitch. Completely getting something wrong off it if we're not picking that type of player up.
100%.
So, sorry, John, I'll give it you back. Sorry, I jumped in, lad.
No,
No,
but
no, no worries.
on that point, sorry, before you continue, Pep specifically mentioned about Doku how I don't know the name of their director of football. I think it's Bergestein or something, or Chiki.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, he specifically said he basically came out and said, "Look, I didn't." Doku surprised me because I didn't really know too much about him. It was a signing made by the director of football, and he surprised all of us because I didn't expect that. So big up. He basically big up to the director of football, and exactly what you're saying there is, you know, Ten Hag doesn't have that structure around him.
No,
he doesn't have the structure where he can be like, you know what, this you've identified this player as someone that can fit into my style of play, my team. Cool, I'm going to trust you to do that. But there's no one. He has to do it himself. So he has to rely on the players that he's kind of understands how they can play. So it's a problem that we have across the team. And then one more thing, sorry, in terms of the defense, right? I don't know who was mentioning about defense earlier. We've conceded, I think, 10 goals already at home this season, right? Last season, we only conceded 10 goals at home all season. So it just completely underlines the fact that we don't have a defense this season. And obviously, it goes into the structural, setup of the whole team. It's not just the defenders defending. And maybe some would say maybe Onana's not as good as the Gea. I don't know. I mean, Marcel wouldn't agree, of course. But there are issues here in terms of setting up the defense and setting up the team that Ten Hag has had to deal with that he didn't have to do with last season. We had a settled defense last season. Only conceded 10 goals at home, and we've already done that in 11 games this season. It's shocking.
Yeah, but I'm not.
You were going to say, John. Go, John. Go. Go, John.
No, it's all good. No, it's all good. That's what makes the conversation. Now, I was going to say that one of the reasons why I think I feel bad for Erik ten Hag is because he's also had to deal with a boatload of all these other issues. But he's, like I said before, he's not devoid of the criticism. He did sign Mason Mount. He did sign some of these players. And to the people saying, oh, but it's Erik ten Hag signing. Yeah, it is. And if it is one of those things where it's just straightforward face value, he signed them, no questions asked, then yeah, to some extent, maybe we could say that. And, if we're looking back at it now, maybe he didn't prepare. Maybe signing somebody like Casemiro and Rafael Varane, players that are over 30, maybe signing Rafael Varane in particular, who's not had the greatest injury records, and having these kinds of players at the crux of his starting 11. Christian Eriksen, also an aging player as well. Like these, maybe from a structural standpoint, maybe he could have done better. You know what I mean? It's obviously something that we also have to ask and question Erik ten Hag for, but you can't hang him for it because he's just, signed a promising young talent like Mason Mount. He's been here for like 3 months. You know what I mean? He's been here for like a couple of months. Man, you know how long it takes for some of us to get settled into our jobs? You know what I'm saying? Like, I've been at my current place for like 2 years. I just recently found out that there's an extra bathroom closer to my office. Are you kidding me? I've been fucking walking around the whole damn place the whole time. You know what I mean? It takes time for certain things to happen. It takes time for things to gel. You know what I'm saying? So I do want to. It's
an odd comparison, John. By the way,
no, I'm just saying.
It takes time for tactics to bed in because John's got a new place to take a piss.
No, I'm just saying, like, it takes time. No, I'm talking about with respect to I'm talking about with respect to the job. Mason Mount's just joined Manchester United. He's playing in a complete different city, a complete different setup. Everything about Mason Mount at Manchester United is different from Chelsea in so many ways. So of course it's going to take him time to gel. It's going to take Erik ten Hag time to gel, and he needs time. Like people, there's been managers like even Pep Guardiola and Jurgen Klopp signed a whole bunch of players that didn't work out. You know what I'm saying? Like it takes time. Ain't nobody talking about Claudio Bravo, Benjamin Mendy. We're talking about Mina. You want to talk about all these players for Liverpool, for Jurgen Klopp and Pep. And I don't like doing these things because I don't like comparing managers. But my point is we can't hang them because it's just it's like 3 months of a season where he's just like, maybe not. No club is gonna have every player healthy, but he got like the players he lost. You know what I'm saying? It's a different kind of gravy.
Yeah, and if you look at Jack Grealish, his first season, everybody's saying what a waste of money Jack Grealish was at, 100 million. Now all of a sudden they're seeing the fruits of what they paid. So, like I say, we have to be patient. I get that, but it's just the fact that when the results are not going the way that they're going, and you've got 6 and 7 teams above you that are playing far superior football, as fans we hang our hat on anything. We'll blame anyone.
Let's get the super chat. Dwight York, I don't think it's the real one, says, ultimately, the 3 points is important, but consistency in play, form, team structure, clinical finishing will keep getting 3 points, sustainable and consistent for the most part week to week. Now, I do want to talk about something that's a bit like wider than Man United, but it does affect Manchester United. There's been a lot of talk this weekend about VAR, yeah? Some would say...
Disgrace. That's what it is, a disgrace.
Now, the reason I bring it up is I don't want to talk about the Arsenal part of it too much, but what I do want to talk about is I saw an article from ESPN today. It was that they conducted a study of how VAR has positively and negatively affected Premier League teams this season so far. Now, shockingly enough, the study shows that VAR has been more punitive against Manchester United than any other Premier League side, giving Manchester United a -4 rating. Now, this includes the likes of overturned decisions. We've had 0 decisions leading to goals for us. We've had 4 disallowed goals. We've had a decision that's led to a goal against. Our net goal score is -5. Our subjective decisions going for us, we've only had 1 of them. Subjective decisions going against us is 3. The net subjective score is -2. We've had a penalty against us. Again, the most punitive decisions going against the team in the Premier League. Marcel, I'll go to you. Does that kind of wipe away the argument that, you know, when you get a negative VAR decision for you and they go, look, it balances it out over the season? I don't feel like it's balancing it out for Manchester United at the moment. And I don't want to make it like a woe is me, Man United, all that kind of stuff. But just what are your thoughts on VAR? Because we've had yet more controversy this weekend about it. Where are you sitting on it at the moment?
VAR should always try to benefit the attacking play. You know, and unfortunately, it didn't do that for us against Arsenal. You know, if we're talking about Garnacho goal, it's you know, you want to see goals. At the end of the day, you know, we're football fans. We want to see goals. So it should really, as best as possible, you know, try and benefit the attacking play. So that's as far as I can. You know, that's my thoughts on VAR as a whole. Whatever's happened with Arsenal is whatever happened with them. You know, we had some very, very unfair decisions happen against us in our game, you know, so it happens. Everyone's going to get their turn. And for us, it's also kind of not a woe is me kind of thing, but, you know, it adds to that kind of feeling of, you know, it's been a difficult season this season. Yeah. But it's going to be part of that. I think it's been able to really, you know, give some kind of rigidness to our team in terms of belief. When we get this adversity, it's really tested our character as a team, and it looks like, especially if we can get these results, the momentum going in the right direction, it could be a positive. That could be a feather in our cap, you know, that feeling that we can come against adversity.
Yeah, well, that's what Ten Hag said yesterday after the game. He said during the game, when we had that first goal ruled out of offside, you could see him mouth, like, not again. Like how many times, basically, because obviously the Maguire one got ruled out for a subjective offside decision, whatever that is.
That's shocking. Shocking.
By the way, a subjective offside. And then also, just looking at the Arsenal, what happened in the Arsenal game with the ball being deemed as in play, for us earlier on this season against Brighton, exactly the same. It's deemed as that was out of play. And lots of people pointed to, at that time, they said, well, I remember at the World Cup with that game between Germany and Japan, where the ball looked out of play, but the ball's a sphere, and actually it can hang over the line from that perspective. So why wasn't that one deemed in? Does that just go to show, Rich, then, that I know people don't like to hear the term fine margins because it was an Ole Gunnar Solskjaerism, you know, because he used to say fine margins and everyone used to roll their eyes and go, come on, Ole, fine margins. But is that also part of what we've seen this season, that we've also maybe not had the rub of the green that maybe some other clubs have?
Yeah, 100%. I think I'd agree that we haven't had the rub of the green. We've been a bit unlucky. You know, Ten Hag says he doesn't want to use those kind of things as an excuse, but you have to take it into consideration. You know, these goals change games. So if you're in those games, you know, I think Brighton beat us well, you know, comprehensively at the end anyway, right? You know, but if you score that goal at that time in the game, and it changes the game completely, you know.
1-1 goes 1-1, yeah.
Exactly. And then there was the Tottenham game as well, when I think at the time it was 0-0, and they handballed it. And that, once again, somebody else has got exactly the same decision, or, you know, less of a handball, and they've given it for them. So these little things, it just feels like a sense of injustice. And if we're going to say it's going to balance out, then hopefully second half of the season we'll do the title charge, because
we're going to be getting some crazy decisions.
Decisions. But it is, especially the one that really annoyed me was the Rashford one, where they said the ball's got out of line, and then you're thinking back to the World Cup when I remember watching that game actually, where I thought it was gone out of line as well, got off the pitch, and then they showed the other angle, the bird's eye view angle, and you're like, oh, okay, fair enough, like that is clearly on. And it's just a shame that they can't do that in the Premier League with all this money. They can't. You're telling me they can't get a bird's eye view angle of that line? Come on. And then same thing happens against just the other day against Arsenal, and they give it as in. So it's just like, why us? Why can't we have good things?
Yeah.
But hopefully, like you said, hopefully it does balance out. Who knows? Hopefully it does.
Yeah, who knows indeed. Kenny, what do you make of VAR? Of course, it wasn't actually in effect Wednesday against Newcastle. And I know we got absolutely pumped 3-0, but I don't know about you. I didn't miss it. Like, I didn't feel the game suffered for not having it in that game. So where do you sit on it?
No, I think the thing that concerns me is currently it's not cost anybody the job or cost us team relegation or promotion. It hasn't. It may do. You may look back and say, oh, we've had that goal here or there. But as you go closer to the end of the season, if these mistakes continue to be made, then sadly people are going to be relegated and not get top up because of horrendous decisions. And the thing that concerns me more than anything is the consistency from a point of view that at Fulham yesterday, it is the first time I've ever seen a referee go across to the screen to judge on an offside. And that's what I didn't get. I just didn't get it. It was either offside or it wasn't. And I've never, ever seen I've seen a referee go across for penalties and this, that, and the other, but not for that. And I'm thinking, what? Do you want a second bite of the cherry because it's Man United or something? The other thing as well, comparing that to the Newcastle game, they had all the lines. At Fulham, you could get all the lines. So you could see everything. Yet at Newcastle, they couldn't draw a line to see if the ball was out of play. They couldn't draw a line for the offside, what was given, or the foul. And I'm thinking, Newcastle United, St James's Park, you can't draw lines. What's going on here? So basically what that's saying is you could have inconsistencies all season at Newcastle. If you can't physically do the job for VAR, why the hell do you have it at Newcastle? If you at Fulham, we can get the line, maybe because the ground's smaller. I don't know. Do they put cameras here, there, and everywhere? But at Newcastle, they can't do it. I think it's so. How can you introduce something that is meant to be more consistent? If I was an Arsenal fan, I would be absolutely mortified at yesterday. 3 attempts they had. 3 attempts, 4.5 minutes. All right, is the ball? No, right. Was he offside? No. Did he push him? No. 3 attempts. It's not right. That's the problem. We're not seeing it yet. But we will see it. You come the end of the season. That yesterday could have been the last game of the season, and Arsenal needed to win that game at Newcastle to win the league. It could easily happen because Newcastle themselves are pushing for all the trophies. So it could happen to Newcastle. Newcastle could win the league, or they could get the Champions League on a dodgy VAR because they can't draw the lines at Newcastle. It's wrong.
Yeah.
That is what's completely wrong.
I remember Jose at the end of last season when Roma were in the Europa League final, and he to this day says that Roma didn't lose that game because he thinks that Roma should have had penalties that weren't picked up by VAR or something like that, like VAR failed him. And I guess that's the point, that in a final like that, something could happen. And with Arteta, I will just say his reaction to it, I thought was, obviously, look, I've got all the clips. I can play him again. I'll play him as much.
It's embarrassing.
I can mean that, and it was embarrassing because and not even a month ago, when he was asked about the Liverpool debacle, said, look, sometimes people make mistakes. And we should sort of support the officials. And then when it happens to him, it's a disgrace. So it's only a disgrace when it happens to him. Even as a United fan, when what happened to Liverpool a month ago, I was like, that's so wrong. That is so bad, and so bad that that's allowed to happen. I know that Klopp was going to replay the game. That was a bit foolishness. But for me, like, I've been saying this about VAR for, I feel like 2 or 3 years at this point. Even with United last season, like going back to like the Casemiro red card against Palace, and then like a day later, you'll see someone do the same thing, not get a red card. Saw it yesterday in the Newcastle game with Arsenal that I don't know about you. I saw a couple of set pieces where balls went into the box, and I thought, well, if they're given a penalty for Man City against us, how is that any different? But
even the Havertz tackle as well.
The Havertz tackle was horrendous.
Exactly. what's quite interesting though, John, right? And you're the perfect person to talk about this, being over in stateside, yeah? So it feels like in American sports, or frankly, any sport that isn't football, they've been able to get video-assisted referee and all the communication and all that working fine, whether it is like the NFL, whether it's whatever. Why can't it work in football? Why isn't it working in football? Is it technology or is it the people?
First of all, this is why you get paid the big bucks, Owen. You know what I'm saying? That transition, I was ready to cue that up. Flex, give this man his piece. You know what I'm saying? Get him somewhere, you know? No, but here, I've been asked this question many times, and there's a multitude of different factors, one of which I kind of touched up on yesterday with my video. Video replays, and this kind of stuff allows, first of all, for any sporting league to cut to a commercial break. And when your attention is taken away from a commercial break, if you're watching at home, you're not bothered because you're going to take a piss, you're going to reheat the food or whatever.
In the new toilet that you found.
Oh, there it is. Oh wow. You know what I mean? Oh, this one shoots water out the butt. Anyway, so like there's plenty of different angles. Like that one's obviously the commercial break is an example. If you look on the pitch, for example, for American football, the gridiron football, when they take a video replay, the amount of angles, the slow-mo cameras, the tight angle, they literally zoom in so tight you could see the microscopic detail of the American football players' boots. Like it's super tight and it's straightforward. There's nothing confusing about it. Out of gridiron football, out of basketball, NHL, I think maybe basketball probably has a bit more of an issue because, you know, it's one of those 50-50 things where it's a little bit more on the referees to decide. But the fans complain about it a lot less because you hear the referees complaining about it. They're mic'd up. You hear them talking to each other, whatever. Everything seems to be a lot more transparent. Don't get me wrong. I get really annoyed at many sporting aspects of American sports. But if there's one thing that they do right, it is those elements. Proper implementation and use of proper technology. If you're gonna go techie, if you're getting real technological, I want to see every goddamn technological thing. I want to see a slow-mo camera. They can't draw lines. I want to see y'all put like 4 cameras and AI that bitch up. You know what I'm saying? Like I want to see proper technology used if you're gonna do it properly. You know, everything about VAR right now is so half-assed. In the World Cup, in other leagues, they use the World Cup. They use a different sort of semi-automated thing. Kenny touched on it before. How can you go to the screen for an offside? That makes absolutely no sense to me right now. There are those things that are very transparent and clear. There are certain things that they can go to for video assistance, and there are certain things that they cannot go to here in American sports, and it's all communicated. Everybody in that stadium can hear what these referees are doing, so they can also be held accountable. If they're sitting there chatting absolute shit and waffling amongst each other, then everybody's going to hear it. You know what I mean? And I think referees need to be held a bit more accountable. And I'm just going to finish this point off by saying Premier League and football needs to be very careful. Because if there's one thing these American people do very well, they love a goddamn lawsuit. And if these American owners love coming in, taking over all these goddamn clubs, you know what I'm saying? And then, like Kenny said, it might not cost somebody a job now, but who knows? It might do later down the line. Yeah. These Americans, they got their lawyers on speed dial. I'm telling y'all right now, y'all watch TMZ and all that shit. They got them on speed dial. They're going to start, getting together, holding hands and walking together. La, la, la. You know what I'm saying? It's going to be very, very nasty and ugly. So they better fix that now.
Yeah. It's quite interesting, actually, with the automated VAR offside thing, is it was offered at the beginning of the season or prior going into the season. And the Premier League said, no, we're going to add 4 more cameras to every stadium. And everyone went, what? And guess what? Those 4 cameras, they're working. And in addition to that, apparently part of the problem was also that the ball in the Premier League is a Nike football, but with the automated offside stuff or whatever, that's in an Adidas football. So that can't be done. I mean, it just goes to show, doesn't it? It's absolute madness. A couple of super chats here. Vishal has been a member for 15 months. Says, I know it's been a tough season to watch until now, but I really hope we can turn things around in the coming weeks. We need to back our manager. Keegan says it's better in rugby. Commercial breaks are not needed. What else have we got here? Amanor says, question, what must Mount be thinking regarding not playing? Who wants to take that, actually? What must be Mason Mount thinking?
I don't mind. Injuries. I think he's building up his minutes at the moment. I think, he had an injury maybe like 30 days ago, and he's had 3 games since then, I think. He had, I think, 77 minutes, 83 and 65 minutes. This has been his least amount of minutes, and it's been building up. I think he had a hamstring issue. So that's difficult to come back from. Right now, obviously, Bruno's playing well in the 10 position, and I think at some stage you're going to want, when Bruno's not performing, Mount to be in the 10. And I
Will
think
that happen though, Marcel? Will that happen though? Because there's no evidence to suggest that would happen with Bruno Fernandes. I mean, unless he gets moved out to the right, but we've even seen then Mount hasn't really been involved in the 10 position. Do you think? I mean, I know injuries, and I'm sorry to cut you off, but like, do you think it's just injuries, or do you think Ten Hag maybe has thought maybe the same thing that maybe some fans thought when we first signed him, of how does he actually fit in this puzzle that I'm putting together?
Well, I mean, we saw the first games against Wolves and Forest at home. We were at 6s and 7s, and that's because we had 2-8s, Bruno and Mount in the 2-8s, and they weren't
quite
being
literally 7, Mason Mount.
Yeah. So, and we were all over the place, and but it takes games. It takes games to like get that combination and that cooperation between the two, and to be able to get back with the lone 6 by himself. So they needed games. Unfortunately, they didn't get that opportunity because Mount gets injured. All the players are starting to get injured, so they haven't had that opportunity to play together. Ten Hag still has a midfield issue, even though how many windows have we spent going for midfielders? So it takes time, and then once we get that combination, I think it might be Mount to replace Bruno in the 10, or he has to go in the 8 with somebody. But let's see how he fits. I think you're right, Owen. It's a decision that Ten Hag has to make, and like I was saying, he has to be creative. Maybe Mason Mount on the right for a little while so that he can get games.
Yeah,
he'll be much better than Anthony. He'll be much better than Anthony for sure. So let's see what Ten Hag can come up with.
Certainly possible. One more super chat here from Chris says, Swedish Rumble on X posted a 4-minute video of VAR decisions going against us, but for others this season, it's mental. The club needs to take notes. Well, Ten Hag, this is the thing with the VAR thing, just to wrap that up and put a bow on it. He won't use that as an excuse. He doesn't even like to use injuries as an excuse. So he's not going to, I think, focus on that. But I think it is just something to point out that whilst other clubs are complaining about VAR, you go, look, statistically, we have benefited the least from it this season. But to take it back to individuals, Manchester United, heading into the game against Copenhagen on Wednesday, I think it is. I'll start with you, Rich. We've all said today, Anthony hasn't played well yesterday. It was a miracle, I think, that he lasted 60 minutes on the pitch. He was that bad. And we're talking about how great Pellistri was with coming on, but actually, as kind of Kenny points out, it's not as even if he brought on a load of quality. It's just he came on and did something. He literally moved around a little bit, pressed it a bit, and he was miles better than Anthony. I put a question this morning on Matchday Reloaded, and I'll ask the panel here. Despite playing badly, despite being linked with a move away today, how real that is, we don't know. Do you expect Anthony to start on Wednesday away at Copenhagen?
I think the problem is that Ten Hag, this is Ten Hag's guy. Whether we like it or not, this is Ten Hag's guy, right? He spent 85 million on this guy. He chased him all summer and he wanted him. Because of that, I think he probably will start. I really hope that I'm wrong, and I hope he doesn't start, because honestly, I really was backing Anthony from the very jump. I was like, you know what, give him time. I did a video on it on my channel. Like, look, Anthony's not as bad as people are saying last season. He's given us flashes, but the more you watch him this season, the more you're like, I can't defend you anymore, bro. You're dreadful, man. Like, you're not offering us anything on that right hand side, really, now. And even Pellistri, we're saying he was good last game. Okay, he got an assist, but then Pellistri started games this season as well. We've seen Garnacho come off the bench and impact the game. Pellestri's come off the bench and impact the game a little bit more than Anthony gave during that game. But can he do it from the start? And we've seen him start in the cup, I think, in the first round that we played in the Carabao Cup. And he didn't really he flattered to deceive. He didn't really do much that game. He also, I think, started against in the Champions League, I think, against Bayern. Once again, he didn't really, fair enough, it's a tough game. Didn't really do much in that game. So it's a bit hard to say that 100% he's going to come in and do a job. But honestly, right now, I'll take anyone on that right-hand side over Anthony. But I do think Ten Hag might start Anthony because it's his guy. I would really like to see Mount on the right-hand side. I really would, because I don't know where else he's going to fit in the middle of the park anyway. And it sounded at the end of the game like Ten Hag was actually very happy with the balance of McTominay, Amrabat, and Bruno. I think it was last game. It was Eriksen, wasn't it? That was last game. I can't remember, but he was happy with that balance. It was McTominay, Eriksen, and Bruno. So it sounded like he was happy with that, and he wants to keep that midfield going forward while Casemiro is injured. So I would like to see definitely not Mount on the right against Copenhagen.
I was going to say one end, and that would be
yeah.
So for that reason, Anthony starts.
But yeah, I think he will start him. Unfortunately, I don't want to see it, but I just don't want to see Anthony anymore. To be honest.
What do you think, Kenny? Do you think Anthony starts despite the fact that he was a poor performer yesterday?
I think Mount. I think we've got to start keeping the ball. It's not about, Mount's got loads of energy. He's got loads of energy, and he'll put a shift in that lad. He'll put a shift in, and I think he can do the press. We know he can do the press. He's very good at the press. He's got great pressing stats, but what he can do a lot better than Anthony is he can keep the ball. And I think he knows. We all know yesterday from what we all saw. We don't have a problem pressing, but we have a terrible possession, keeping the ball in the final third and passing it around. Mount can do that. And surely, if we can see it, we've said it before, he's nearly fell on his sword playing Rashford and Bruno, and he learnt a little bit of sense. And he's dropped, he didn't start them on Wednesday at Newcastle or whatever. And that's all we asked for. That we asked for no Bruno, no Rashford, and he read that. He read that situation, and I think now he's got to start reading the Anthony situation. Yeah, bring him back, bring Rashford back. He'll bring Rashford back. You don't have to worry, right? But to compensate that, he'll take Anthony out the firing line. He'll probably put Mount there or move Bruno across. And from a fan's perspective, we'll accept that. We won't accept, like we wouldn't have accepted Rashford keep starting. We won't accept it. So we'll get a little bit of grace with the fans if he takes Anthony out the firing line and puts... I don't think they'll start Palestra because the lad's not the finished article. But I do think it's time for Mount. He's got to find a place for Mount. You can't pay 60 million. You can't go to the board in January and say, I want another 45 million for him. I want 37 million for him. And they say, hang on a minute. What about the money we give you for Amrabat and Mount? And they sat on the bench. You can't do it. So he's got to justify that. And I think the number 7, right? We don't use wingers anyway. We don't use wingers what we call wingers. We don't have them flying down the wing or whatever. We don't do that. They invert. So Mount's more than capable of doing what Anthony does and giving us a little bit more.
Yeah, I was thinking this earlier on. I think despite the poor performance, I think Anthony starts. I really do. But I wouldn't be shocked, put it that way, because again, an away game as well, Champions League must win. I just think it'll go with tried and trusted. I don't, because this is the thing with Anthony as well, is they always use the excuse, well, defensively does the work. But as you pointed out earlier on, Kenny, I don't know if he did yesterday as well. I felt bad.
Didn't yesterday?
No, I felt bad for Wan-Bissaka, and I thought he did actually really well, considering he hadn't started in so long. John, what do you think? Do you think Ten Hag will revert to favourites? And again, is this part of the criticism that's been against him this season? Is that valid as well?
I have come to a point where I'm slowly starting to lose faith in Anthony, because it's not about the attacking output. If there's one thing I've been critical of Anthony, it has never been about his goal contributions, as bizarre as that sounds, because if you're a right winger playing for Manchester United, goal contributions and goal involvement should be primo on the list of things you should be doing as a right winger. But for me, my faith has been waning more and more because, for example, yesterday in the match against Fulham, there was a moment where Anthony was getting there was a defender touch tight to his shoulder, and he had the ball on his left foot, just kind of, keeping the distance away. And Aaron Wan-Bissaka, who came on, and who I thought was much more livelier and much more involved, he came to be the passing option for Anthony. But instead of playing that simple pass easy, rather than doing that, he held on to the player for no apparent reason. Maybe he was waiting for an opportunity for that player to make a move and then turn. He held on to him for what to me looked like an inordinate amount of time, and then he sort of half-ass toe punted the ball away towards Aaron Wan-Bissaka, which obviously goes into no man's land, and then he gets dispossessed. Those things to me are much more disturbing and frustrating, because if you're Erik ten Hag, you're literally willing to fall on the sword for your decisions of playing the players that you obviously rate, the players like Bruno, players like Marcus Rashford, players like Anthony in particular. But if these players are not going to give you the bare simple essentials like treating possession seriously, those are the things that frustrate me a lot more. And that situation yesterday in particular, that was when I took off my hat. I was like, oh, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. It was so frustrating. But
Oh my
Yeah,
god!
you know,
Yeah.
my head size is wham. If it comes out, you see it. You feel the atmosphere pulling. You know what I mean? It starts orbiting. But anyways,
The KFC bucket behind you
yeah,
starts going like this.
you see a drum and a thigh just doo, doo. No, but anyways, just to touch up on Mason Mount real quick. I said this before, and it might sound like a bit of a hot take, but I truly felt, in my view, that Erik ten Hag signed Mason Mount not for the short term, but for the long term of being a proper competitor to Bruno Fernandes. Throughout Bruno Fernandes' time at Manchester United, albeit not as long as some other Manchester United players in the past, I've always felt like Bruno Fernandes has never really had competitors in that number 10 role. Yeah, he might have had the one-odd occasion where maybe other players could have slotted in that role, but a true competitor to really push Bruno in that role. Because I honestly think healthy competition breeds a bit of excellence, especially in the world of football. And I truly felt like Mason Mount could have been that competitor for that Bruno role in the next year or two. I also truly feel like Erik ten Hag didn't expect the season to capitulate the way he intended to. If Manchester United were playing similarly to last season and we were still kicking dope balls, still scoring goals, if you bring on Mason Mount for Bruno Fernandes in the 60 minutes or 70 minutes when things are healthy, when your cholesterol levels are low, when you're taking your vitamins, you know what I'm saying? It looks a lot better for Mason Mount to occupy these roles because you're looking healthier. But because we're capitulating, Erik ten Hag can't take Bruno off because Bruno's his magic man. He's got to come up with something. So he's gambling on Bruno, and therefore he's forced to not be able to operate Mason Mount. And that's why I'm a little bit concerned because that's how I feel. That's why he's not playing on the right. There's no way Erik ten Hag sitting on that bench going, oh my God, Anthony, this guy's just magic. That's no way. There's no way that's the truth. Then why isn't he playing him? My sort of deductive analysis makes me believe that I think later down the line, Mason Mount potentially could have been the next in line to replace Bruno in the future. And I just felt like that was the competitor. I don't know if it's, I think it's backfired on him to an extent, but going all the way back to your main point, I also am agreements with you, Owen. I think Anthony will start.
I know. I agree. It's you sort of go through the whole thing, and then at the end you go, "Yeah, he's going to start there." Marcel, when it comes to Anthony, though, can it still work out for him at Manchester United? Look, he's been here over a season now. Obviously, there's stuff happening off the pitch, which I think is important to say that could be a factor of maybe his form at the moment as well. But can it work out with him at United? I mean, the price is the price. Can't change that. Is he ever going to live up to that? Do you think? Can Ten Hag make it work?
Well, it's a difficult task. Obviously, we've got other players like Sancho priced around the same, wingers that have done a lot less than what Anthony's done. You know, when we think about in big games, Anthony scored against Arsenal, Anthony scored against City. You know, he could have contributed against Chelsea if, you know, he was just short of contributing just before half time. And then he scored against Barcelona as well. We needed it.
Yeah.
So he's scored big goals for us. So that's a basis point for him. His first season to contribute for the club, he scored big goals. But it's just not effective. It's really weird right now. I don't know whether it's the team, you know, like a Donny van der Beek. We always used to say, you know, wait until the side upregulates and all the qualities around him, then we can get Donny van der Beek. It could be a similar situation. Unfortunately, you know, we don't see the Anthony that we want to see, or it could go the other way where we actually do see the Anthony that Ten Hag is trying to envision. But for me, I think Amad Diallo, I've been saying it for a little while. Amad, you know, when Amad comes into the side, I think he might be the better fit on the right wing, on the right hand side, and he needs to obviously come back from his injury because it just, you know, and hopefully Anthony can just score in big moments for us again. Still, if we can just get that version of him and his poor performances to the rest of the season, then I think we have to look at him. You know, we give him one more season. You know, he has a good preseason, and then he has one more go at it, and then you maybe sell him because, you know, I think that will be 2 seasons as well. Sancho's had 2 seasons. I think this is going to be his 3rd. You know, we're looking to sell him. I think we do have to give Anthony that fair shot as well. Give him maybe 2 or 3 seasons. That's a lot, by the way. I think 3 seasons is a lot, but give him at least 2 seasons. This will be his 2nd one. And can he contribute for us this season?
I think it's interesting you mentioned the big goals because actually, if you look at Sancho and you're saying like, okay, so Anthony scored against Arsenal, fair. But Sancho scored against Liverpool last season. You mentioned he scored against City. What was the result in the end? 6-3.
Game was done.
6-3. I remember Jadon Sancho scoring at the Etihad as well the season before, and we lost 4-1. He actually tied it up to make it 1-1 at the time. And maybe Champions League goals or European goals, Anthony scored against Barcelona. But Jadon Sancho, didn't he score a winner against Villarreal in a group stage game, Champions League season before? I think it was too. So I think that comparison's interesting. I think I was going to circle back to you mentioned Ahmad though. Do we run a risk with saying Ahmad can come in and do it, of doing what we always do with some of these younger players, like we've done with Palestri when we go bring Palestri in, and then we get a couple of looks at it and we go, actually, maybe we don't. Maybe we don't bring Palestri in. Do we run that risk? Do you think, Marcel?
No, because I think hopefully now when we're looking at a different kind of, we're not looking at time now. We're looking at, can the squad evolve? Especially if Tanel gets the time required and we support him and back him. We're looking at, can this player improve? We looked at Palestri and we've seen an okay performance against Bayern Munich, and so far a lot of people saying he's just not the level. But as long as these players maybe get 4 and 5 and 6 games, you might be able to see them grow into the side, get the passing patterns, get the combinations. Tannock spoke about it at the end of the game against Fulham, about having the right amount of players in the side playing together consistently. That's how you build up the passing pattern. So maybe, and Ahmad's shown that he can carry a side at a lesser level in the Championship, but he's shown that kind of quality, that leadership kind of quality that you need. Under good management as well in the South of Sunderland as well. So, there's positives there with Ahmad. I think he really could come in. And then I know people are saying the same for Kobe. They're saying, look, you're putting too much pressure on him when he comes in. It could be difficult. It's not a healthy environment. But, this is what breeds top players. They need to come to be able to survive in kind of difficult environments. So if you're good enough, you're old enough to play in this side. So I think Ten Hag that's part of Ten Hag's kind of project to grow certain younger players into the squad. He's offered opportunities, and can they take them?
Ahmed was outstanding last year. He was outstanding at Sunderland, Ahmed. And when you watch him, it does remind you of Anthony, how he runs. Do you know what I mean? So I do think Ahmed is going to have a future. So, as soon as we can get him back, then we can have a look at the lad. And I think he will try him out, definitely.
Super chat from Red Baron says, I think Mount and Varane are secretly injured. We don't even have time to get into the Varane thing, but I mean, that could be an all myriad of different things. It could be illness, it could be tactical, it might be something more. There certainly are rumors. Before we wrap things up, I'm going to go around the panel and say, folks, looking forward then to Wednesday, Champions League. The drama we had in the last game, of course, Andre Onana late penalty save. It was dubbed going into that one, if we didn't win, we were out of the Champions League. It's essentially the same situation. Yeah. This time it's just away now. If we don't win, we're probably out of the Champions League. I'll start with you, Rich. Did we get an away European victory?
Yes. Confidence.
Say it like you mean it.
Nothing. Yeah. based on absolutely nothing. But it's hard to predict it. It's hard to predict this team now. The last game against Fulham, I was thinking, we'll get a nice 3-0 win. And then you start the game, you're like, why did I predict 3-0 win? Like, what? Come on. So I'm gonna just take a light 1-0 cheeky away win again, please, because we have to win. We just have to keep grinding out the wins. So I think we just grind out another win. Character and believe and all that jazz.
Did you actually go into the Fulham game thinking we were going to win 3-0?
I just thought, why not? Let's just have a bit more confidence. And then literally as soon as the game started, I'm like, and I saw the lineup and all that. I was like, come on. It was embarrassing. God, disgrace.
It's embarrassing. I'm sorry. Embarrassing.
Marcel, positive optimism. You optimistic we're going to win in Champions League on Wednesday?
Yeah, 3-0. 3-0 Manchester United win. I think, when you think about the game...
Away from home.
3-0. When you think about what Copenhagen have to do, to get...
I feel sick.
In the league.
That's how I feel.
If they take 3 points, they go, I think, second, because they've got 1 point right now. And I think Galatasaray also have got 4 points. So they're going to be coming out. They won't be sitting back the whole game. They're going to come out at some stage, or they'll have their spell at least. And that will give us opportunities if we're still going to be playing this counter-attacking style, which our manager's really trying to hone down and hit on this season with build-up elements. So I'm going to be looking to see the build-up elements, and then I'm going to be looking to see the turnovers. And if we can create 3 good opportunities, I'm looking for players to score them. I'm expecting Copenhagen to come out against us. So yeah, 3-0.
3-0. I mean, so Rich has gone with a win. Master's gone with a 3-0 win. Kenny, what are you going with?
In the 98th minute, and we should have only played 94, Harry Maguire goes up in the box.
Yes.
Balls it like that. It goes in, and VAR have not got a camera to see it. We win 1-0. The world goes mad because we've got a decision off VAR we should never have got, and I'll take it.
I tell you what, if that happens now, Kenny, right, you got to do the lottery live on the air. You got to do the lottery live on the air next week because that is so specific. Oh, that would be amazing. So Kenny's going with a win. John, what you said? Good vibes. What dodgy 1-0 from Kenny? Where do you sit, John? You said dodgy 1-0, the VAR madness, a Marcel 3-0. What's your prediction?
I don't even want to talk about the game. I was telling Marcel before we finished off the show last week that I get rushed by my mumsy and popsy about this marriage situation. Like, you getting too damn old, you better get married quickly. And I was like, look, I want Marcel in my corner when this happens because he'll make me feel better instantly. The positivity is insane. I want that energy. You know what I mean? But anyways, I feel like it'll be scrappy, but I truly feel like Manchester United. I'm not gonna sound like an absolute nonce, but I really feel like Manchester United are improving in certain areas. In the game against Fulham, especially in that first half, when Manchester United retained a lot of that possession, they were really trying to feed Højlund with these passes, but they were just so bad. The passes were so bad, but I could see it happening. Højlund looked frustrated as hell. He came off that bench, and I swear, if I wouldn't want to be sitting next to him, he would have clocked somebody. He was so pissed off. But I truly feel like there is that element of working, and I think Højlund could. I feel like he'll find it a little bit easier in the Champions League for some odd reason, and I think he'll be on the goal sheet. I don't know what degree we're winning. It'll be a scrappy win, maybe 2-1, 1-0, something along those lines.
I am going to agree with you, and I'm going to go with a 2-1, and I'm going to say Manchester United will go 1-0 down as well. We'll go 1-0 down, and a bit like Kenny was saying. I'm thinking we get more late, magic, madness, whatever you want to call it. Maybe it is going to be Harry Maguire. I don't know. Maybe it's going to be Wan-Bissaka. A Wan-Bissaka outstretched spider leg is going to put it into the net, and it's going to be it's going to go to. It would be very rare. I'm not sure we'll be able to contain KG if that happened. That would be madness. Rafa says with the final super chat, I told you on the summer Anthony was wasted money. He had the same season as Sancho, 5 goals and 7 assists, and Sancho was missing for months last season. So lots of people saying that they've had enough with Anthony Dos Santos. But there you go, guys. Appreciate everyone for watching us and tuning in this evening. Big up to Rich, big up to Marcel, big up to Good Vibes John, and big up to Kenny. If you do want to get involved with Rich and John's channel, you can just click the title. It's hyperlinked. Look at that technology as well. So you can get involved there. Anyway, guys, we'll be back tomorrow morning. Flex and myself. Flex will actually be here, I promise, as well. Do you know what, actually? This is a peek behind the curtain. He popped up in the little boxes below me here, and he was in, and I'm like, what are you doing in it? He's like, I think he's a passenger in a car seat. I don't know what's going on.
Disgrace. That's what it is. A disgrace. It's embarrassing. I'm sorry. Embarrassing.
And on that note, we're out of it. Peace.
Peace.